This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, staff writer, fanside.com. I'm joined today by a man who enjoys him some trilogies, but prefers the sequel above the prequel and the first one more often than not. That can be The Dark Knight. That can be D2 Mighty Ducks. That can be The Godfather Part 2. That can be, most importantly, Santa Claus 2 with the fake plastic Santa Claus.
That's right.
Using that as an insult to make fun of people in a car. Cody Williams, content director, fanside.com. How are you?
Very glad that I have not succumbed to plastic surgery just quite yet. I probably need it, but I don't care enough really at all. So, but I'm doing good, man. Glad to be back on the East Coast. Feels weird to not be recording at the ass crack of dawn, but how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Like we're in the same time zone right now. We're like we're in adjacent states. It's pretty effing wild. I gotta
That's
be
right, man.
honest.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, and, obviously we're at Honey Bear's lair right now, and Cody's at Mama Ruthie's house right now.
That's right. Yeah, Mama Ruth, keeping it peanuts out here.
Keeping it peanuts here. Yeah, that's your mom's name. That was my grandmother's name. So hashtag Team Ruth.
It's our coworker Ian Levy. He got a dog recently, like earlier this year, and they were trying to name it like an old lady name, and he was like, "We considered Ruth," and I was like, "Oh, it's my mom's name." Hell yeah!
Yeah, we do this for all these dogs that we sit for. Honey Bear, her name would be Praline because she looks like a praline. And there is no state podcast. I don't know how to spell praline, and it's much easier than it looks. It's Praline, which is it
That's
gets in
way
your
too
head.
simple. Yeah, you get in your head about that. That. It sounds like it should have an extra I at least.
Oh, no question. It's spelled Preio L infinity sign backwards in. So, okay. Let me false start a bit. We've definitely did our first and 15 today for episode 136 is going to be playoffs. You kidding
Mhm.
me? We are going to be previewing the first four first round games of note. We're going to make our picks as well. So tomorrow, in a very Morrissey way, tomorrow. I can't wait till we do like the Morrissey or the Smiths double feature for this.
We got to dress in all black and just be super sad the entire episode.
And we're gonna spike our hair up, knowing that that's impossible given how long our hair is.
Use like two full cartons of like hairspray.
Our Liberty spikes like literally go to the
That's
roof.
right.
But this charming man, me and you, Merry Christmas. Yeah, this episode's off the rails. We got our first playoff game ever with number 10 Indiana going to number 7 Notre Dame on Friday night, so tomorrow night. Then on Saturday, the 21st, the shortest day of the year, we got three more playoff games. We got one at noon in the early window with SMU going to Penn State, mid-afternoon Clemson going to Texas, and the nightcap with Tennessee going to Ohio State. I'm excited about every single one of these. I'm going to watch every single second of these,
Yeah.
minus when I'm at Izzy's house and she may need to poop in the middle of Notre Dame, Indiana, which is totally understandable.
100%. Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, I'll probably have to poop during Notre Dame, Indiana. So, like, I get it. But, I'm super excited as well. Like, the more I think about it, the more I do think that there might be more upset potential than I was thinking when we talked about that on Monday. Like, I just think that we don't know what this is going to look like because the more I keep thinking about it, the one thing that keeps coming to mind is we're not picking these teams to win a national championship. We're picking them to win one game. And in college football, how many times have we seen teams that are underdogs, big underdogs, or even narrative underdogs be able to come in and win that one game? Like that's happened so many times in the history of the sport.
Precisely. And just so all the people back home listening to the show, the starters of the world, every home team is the favorite in this.
Mhm.
I think the range of these is, I think Notre Dame is maybe -7, which I think is the closest line, or Ohio State. It's like -7. And then it goes up to like 11 and a half with
Mhm.
Texas hosting Clemson. So let's
Right.
start with the Hoosier State battle. Let's talk about some Indiana football on one of them Indiana nights. Let's go.
This is the last dance with Mary Jane, indeed, man. So let me start here because it's the thing I've been thinking about the most, and that's Notre Dame. I think a lot of people are looking at this game and thinking that Notre Dame is going to treat Indiana kind of like Ohio State and kind of like Michigan did, and where they just physically outmatch them. And that's definitely in play. But the other thing that I keep coming back to is, are we sure Notre Dame is that team? Are we sure Notre Dame is that? Because Notre Dame has played a soft schedule this year. They beat Texas A&M in the opener, and their next best win is Army, which Army we know doesn't really have like the athletes to be able to hang with Notre
Yeah.
Dame. But Indiana has definitely better athletes, better size, better, strength profiles than Army does. So like we have not seen Notre Dame play a team as good as Indiana in 3 months. Like we have no idea what this is going to look like. And the more I keep coming back to that, the more I wonder if Indiana might be at least a little bit suited to put a scare into Notre Dame to like actually make this happen. And I think that starts with the fact that you look at Tennessee going to Ohio State, you look at SMU going to Happy Valley, you look at Clemson having to go down to Austin. Like all these teams are going to be playing in unfamiliar environments. This is not going to be an unfamiliar environment. And it's fitting that this might also be a weather game. There might be some snow in the forecast. There's going to be wind. It's going to be cold. Indiana's not going to be fazed by that. The weather in South Bend is not different from the weather in Bloomington.
Yeah, it's not all that different. I think Bloomington's a little bit further south. I think south again, this is not a geography show for Cody. Uh, Like South Bend's almost like Michigan, so it's like
Yeah.
essentially like within like an hour of Chicago. So it's barely Indiana. But I go back to this. It's going to be also imagine tonight in Santa Claus, Indiana, over there
That's right.
over there in Holiday World. They have the best wind roller coasters imaginable. Smooth as Jason Mendoza's brain. Yeah, finished watching The Good Place last night and cried a lot. But it's all about crying. And if you cry in this game, it's just gonna freeze. You're gonna have icicles coming out of your eyeballs.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I need both. Well, Marcus Freeman's already going to have like icicles in the facial hair. I need Coach Sig to grow out a mustache so he can have some icicles in that bad boy. That'll look great. Great visuals. That's what we're looking for. But no, I mean like look at talking about like the actual football. The other thing that I keep coming back to with Notre Dame is in their run of not playing the highest level of competition, they have not faced a passing offense that has the weapons that Indiana does since they lost Benjamin Morrison. And I do not trust the rest of the secondary without Benjamin Morrison. I just don't. And so that's another reason why I'm looking at Indiana and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't. I'm still having a hard time getting to where I'm picking the upset, but I am thinking that there is a strong contingent of people that are looking at this game and thinking Indiana doesn't stand a chance. Indiana, it's cute that they're here, but they're not going to. I don't think it's going to be a cute that they're here type of game.
No, not at all. So I was thinking about this. Has Marcus Freeman bought Christmas presents yet for his carload of kids?
He's probably just going to pick it up like at the Notre Dame like fan shop after this game.
I mean, he's been hounded by the misses and everything. I think that's a factor in this game. So I'll be the first one to pick. So when I'm sitting here, I think about it, you bring up a great point with the weather. You're like, okay, the weather's gonna be a factor, and I think it hurts the better passing offense, which is Indiana.
Mhm.
Curtis Rourke has a little bit more, maybe a year or two more of starting experience over Riley Leonard. Then again, Riley Leonard was hurt a bunch last year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that Indiana has more talent. I think Indiana's going to get up for this game because Notre Dame's kind of disrespected them over the years in favor of Purdue, which is
Yeah.
pretty insulting. And Notre Dame plays Purdue far more regularly than Indiana, which is
Mhm.
never. So I'm going to take Indiana to win by 7 points, win something like 35-28.
Okay. So I said I'm having a hard time getting there, but I'm with you. Like I've gotten there. I'm taking Indiana 34-31 in this one. I think we're going to see fireworks, honestly. Like I don't think that yes, the weather I do think may slow down the passing game, but Indiana has two backs against a run defense that's sneaky not been great for Notre Dame this year. You look at the regular season finale against USC. USC hung 35 on them, and Indiana has a far better defense than USC does. So, like, I do think that, and Curtis Rourke is not going to, I don't expect him to turn the ball over the way Jade Maeva did to set Notre Dame up. I think that I don't know. I just keep coming back to the fact that I think this is when I was talking about that one shot, that one game, Indiana is the team that exemplifies that to me. Like they've been disrespected since that Ohio State game, and I think that they take all that out and they throw the kitchen sink at Notre Dame in this one.
I think that's totally fair. So the winner of this game, which we forecasted to be Indiana, will play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I think there's a chance that like maybe like if Notre Dame goes on a run, I'm going to be picking against them. I feel like that's going to be
Yeah.
their plight in all this. For as much as I think that these two teams could put up an interesting fight versus Georgia, I think this game is going to take a lot out of them, and Georgia just has enough dudes. So like I'd probably take Georgia to win comfortably next week, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's like what I was just saying. Like Ohio State was able to out athlete Indiana. Georgia is definitely able to do that, and I don't care who's playing quarterback.
100%. Yeah, I feel like that's a good thing. Yeah, also I was looking at the rundown. We are all good for a bowl and bowl and bowl and bowl. We've got everything written down. So we
Love it.
we have. I was freaking out about that. That was the thing I was trying to tell about off air. I'm like, what are we gonna do here? So we're all good with that. We're gonna move on to our next game here, which is gonna be the mid af no, the early kick on Saturday
Hmm.
with number 11 SMU going to number 6 Penn State. Again, this is the one that people are talking about with the weather. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in Friday night into Saturday morning.
Hmm.
Even though SMU is in Dallas, they have in recent years played a little bit more of a national travel schedule. That
Hmm.
was kind of how the AAC was, and that's kind of how it is now in the ACC. But yeah, you also got to ask yourself, like, how many games are they playing like in Philadelphia versus Temple or at Boston College? Like,
Yeah. Or
if
Cincinnati. Like, yeah, it's not. And
yeah,
like
they're
it also like the thing I keep coming back to is like, yes, they've had a more national travel schedule, but you're also not playing these games in late December. You're not playing
right.
like they may have one game where they played in one of these cold weather spots, like even near this part of the year, much less on December 21st.
Yeah, you might have played in Tulsa versus a bunch of wind or something. But like,
Right.
yeah, but like you're not dealing with this. So I think in a weird way, I think the weather actually, in terms of like the passing game, I think it actually helps SMU because Kevin Jennings is a little bit more of a runner. But again, I think this is just such untrodden territory. I'm not going to say this is going to be like an FCS team going to like the big house and having to play Michigan and the all of it all. But like, I'll be really impressed if SMU pulls off the upset. I'm just not sure they can do it.
Yeah, I keep coming back to two things. Excuse me. Two things when I think about this matchup. First is what I saw from SMU at the beginning of the ACC championship game, where the lights looked a little big. The athletes were a different caliber than what they'd seen all season, and they looked a little overwhelmed. And not just Kevin Jennings. Like I think that entire team looked a little like, oh God, the lights are big. The lights are only going to be brighter in Happy Valley with a home Penn State crowd who's going to be amped up for this game, who's going to be behind the Nittany Lions in this one. So I worry about that, and I think the part that really worries me about that for SMU is I think that's exactly the way Penn State wants to play this football game. I think Penn State wants to get out to a one score or two score lead and then just sit on it because I think they have the personnel to be able to do that. Like we were impressed by the game script that they showed against Oregon being able to keep up in a shootout against a team like Oregon, but I don't think that's the way they want to play. I think like you look back I think it'll be higher scoring than this, but you look back at the Illinois game earlier this year.
Yeah.
They won that game 21-7. They got up and then they just sat on Illinois and they didn't let them do anything offensively. And the other thing that factors into that is Kevin Jennings' mobility, I said on Monday, is kind of like an X factor and something that could take over a playoff game. Abdul Carter might be the other X factor in that. And I don't like if Kevin Jennings is trying to run away from Abdul Carter, I don't think that's going to work out really well for Kevin Jennings.
No, I was sitting there thinking about this. Like, I remember like somebody of note played Illinois and beat Illinois, and I kept thinking it was Indiana. No, it was Penn State. So Penn State did technically get a quality win. So
That's right.
congratulations there, Nittany Lion Nation. The big key for me is it's going to come down to how well the SMU offense plays. I think
Mhm.
SMU's defense has always come to play.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I like about Penn State going forward, although they did lose their backup quarterback, Bo Pribula, to the
Yeah.
transfer portal, and I thought James Franklin was like his head was going to explode like Megamind over there at the podium. I mean, it stinks. I mean, obviously, I know Rhett Lashley had some issues too. He's like, we can't be aggressive in the portal because we got a game right now and we got to
Mhm.
get everything figured out by the 31st. We'll talk about that here probably a little bit more, but those have probably been the two coaches who have been the most like frustrated about the portal of anybody in the playoff right now, if I recall correctly.
No, I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy in the portal because Preston Stone, SMU's backup, who was benched during the
Yes.
season, he's also in the portal, but he's going to be on the sideline for SMU in this game. He's going to be available. Bo Pribula not doing that. No, Bo Pribula's like, nah, dude, I'm out. I'm peacing out. And so, like, it's an interesting dichotomy to see how that was handled. And what we don't know, like there's a chance that Bo Privilo walked into James Franklin's office and was like, "Hey, I'm going to enter the transfer portal," and James Franklin was like, "Good, get the hell out of here." Like we don't know that. I don't want to put it all on the kid. Like it could be a coaching decision that he's not there, but it sucks. Like it's the timing of the calendar right now and having playoff teams with guys in the portal, like that's not the way it should be. There should be like a second window for playoff teams or postseason teams.
Yeah, there's got to be something. I mean, like, I understand that there's spring semester or like spring quarters coming up, and you got to be enrolled because, believe it or not, these are actually student athletes. Or they're students, I guess. They're professional.
Allegedly, allegedly.
Yeah, I know. But as I'm sitting here, I think Penn State's capable of winning in multiple ways. I think they can win low scoring games. They can actually contend in a shootout. I think SMU can do it too, but it's muted. I feel like these are kind of two teams that are eerily similar. I just think Penn State's got a higher ceiling than SMU. Maybe even a slightly lower floor. Maybe there's just a little bit more range with the Nittany Lions. But as much as I want to keep see the ponies keep running and rolling, I got to go with Penn State in this game. I'm going to go Nittany Lions 24, ponies 14.
I'm right there with you. I think talking about upsets, I think the more I look at it in these first round games, this is probably the least likely in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
I just think that like I've sung SMU's praises for a long time, despite what some people have said. I'm never gonna let that go. But I just think Penn State's a better team. I think Penn State has the better players. I'm gonna go 28-17 in this one. Like I just think it's gonna be Pitt, maybe SMU makes a little bit of a run to make that a little bit more respectable at the end, but I just have a really hard time not seeing Penn State come out on top on this one.
Yeah, there's a chance SMU potentially comes out flat after giving their all in the ACC championship. And Penn State too. I think that's totally in play as well. But the winner of this game, they will be playing Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe, on New Year's Eve, I think.
Yeah,
So they have the shortest turnaround of anybody, I
yeah,
think.
100%.
Um, so I would say that we would probably take both of them to beat Boise State, but
Yeah,
that just not popped in my head. I think that's an issue, and I think there's a chance that the Broncos could actually beat either of these teams. I'm not counting on it, but it's probably going to be much closer of a game than we anticipate.
yeah. I mean, you talk about dude. It's like giving Ashton Genty, more weeks to get healthy and more weeks for that coaching staff and Spencer Danielson to be able to get them ready to go. Like, that is an advantage. Like there is an advantage to having the bye and an extra week to prepare.
Could you imagine Dirk Cutter out there for Christmas? He invites Maddox Madsen and his family over for Christmas. It's like, you're going to throw a football through that tire.
Until you do it 10 times in a row, you're not getting any ham.
It's like, also, Christmas Vacation, like they don't care about the kids or anybody. The only people who are the same are Chevy Chase, Beverly Lee D'Angelo, and Randy Quaid, and then Brian Doyle Murray just changes roles.
100% so good.
Dude, I didn't realize Vegas Vacation was part of that series too.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's an incredible run that we've got going there.
I watched that after the Falcons Raiders Monday night game because we needed a.
I picked me up.
Yeah, we got that with Penix here coming up here on Saturday or Sunday. But yeah, that was wild. So yeah, we're basically the same on the first two games. There's a chance we may be the same on the final two. There is about these first two. I think the next one might be closer than we expect. It's the mid-afternoon game. It's going to be going on there at DKR in Austin, where the number 5 Texas Longhorns are going to be hosting the number 12 Clemson Tigers. Spreads about 11 and a half. I understand that Cade Klubnik grew up in Austin. He played locally. I think Clemson over them. I think Clemson will play well for about 2.5 quarters. And then I think eventually the pass rush of the Longhorns is just going to be too problematic. And it'll kind of look like Georgia, Clemson, in the ACE SEC champion or Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
Yeah.
The score won't reflect that, but like that's kind of how I see it going.
I can see it going one of two ways, both of which Texas comes out on top. And like that's like I don't think this one's going to be close, if I'm being honest. I
Yeah.
said, like I can still see more of a world where Clemson is able to pull off an upset than SMU just because of like the talent should be there. But whenever we've seen Clemson play elite defensive lines, we've seen this team really struggle, whether that was South Carolina, whether that was Georgia, whether that was even like a Louisville or a Pitt. Like we've seen this team get into trouble spots when they played an elite defensive line. Texas might be the best defensive line in the country, or they're one of them at least. They played like it. And on top of that, like Clemson's wide receivers have come on late this season, but they also haven't faced a coverage unit that is as talented as Texas is either. Like I think Texas defense rules this day. And so like we're either looking at a Georgia game script, but I do have concerns about the Texas offense still. So I do think there is a chance we see like a low scoring dogfight like the South Carolina game. But I still think Texas comes out on top on either of those just because you say you could see Clemson playing well for 2.5 quarters. I don't see that. I don't see Clemson's offense being able to do a whole hell of a lot in this game. Phil Maffa's still banged up. Phil Maffa has been a big part of easing the burden on Cade Klubnik a lot this season on the offensive side of the ball. When Cade Klubnik is forced to be the guy and like under duress consistently throughout a game, he makes mistakes. He makes big mistakes, and this Texas team is able to take advantage of that. And I also think that some of the problems we have seen with Texas offense, namely with Quinn Ewers, I think giving Texas another week to prepare to get those packages ready for red zone with Arch Manning, I do think we see a hefty dose of Arch Manning in certain sub packages. Like, I just think that Texas is a different animal than what Clemson is ready for and than what Clemson has frankly faced because you look at the two games that they played against the SEC competition this year so far. And yes, the South Carolina final score line might have been close, but that game didn't feel as close as it was. It felt like South Carolina was just waiting to break through that entire game. You let Lenora Sellers rush for 166 yards in that game. Georgia, they just sat on you and sat on you and sat on you until you couldn't breathe anymore, and then they suffocated you. So, like, I can see Texas doing either of those things. Obviously, Quinn Ewers isn't rushing for 166 yards. I assure you of that. But, like, I do think that I just think Texas has too many, like, every advantage that I can possibly think of, like to, diagnose matchup, it comes up Texas every time.
Yeah, I keep going back to it. I'm like, for Clemson to win, Cade Klubnik has to play one of his best games of the season. Garrett Riley needs to live up to his name. Wes Goodwin, who I think is actually the better coordinator for Clemson,
Mhm.
needs to basically do just enough to keep Quinn Ewers in the game playing erratically and
Mhm.
minimize Arch Manning's effectiveness. But it feels like you're like a checkmate every way you go. Like
Mhm.
it's I'm not gonna say it's a stalemate, but it's like you're kind of in a bad spot here. There may be a situation where I think Dabo's experience in the playoff may work in his favor over Sark. There may be something where Sark just kind of does like something impulsive, and that could
Mhm.
help even the thing. But the more I go back to it, I just I just don't think that Clemson's going to have an answer for the Arch Manning packages when they come in.
Mhm.
So they can figure everything else out, including the portal. They got a guy in the portal, which is
Hell yeah,
unbelievable.
Davin. I'm proud of you, man.
I'm gonna go with the final score of this game being uh 41-21
Ooh, high scoring.
Texas.
High scoring.
Texas.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm going a little bit lower scoring. I'm going 31-10, Texas. Like I think this is, similar margin. I just think that I have less faith in the Clemson offense being able to do stuff in this game, quite frankly.
I was doing the math like, is this the same margin? I'm like, no, I think you have yours is by one more point.
Yeah, one more point. But I mean, it's basically the same margin.
We do a little bit of math in this podcast, but not a lot. So the winner of this game is going to be going to the Peach Bowl, where me and the Arizona State podcast are going to be watching the Sun Devils forks up and everything like that. I think there's a chance that like any of those three teams could win that game.
Yeah, 100%.
I think I have a harder time seeing Clemson winning two in a row,
Hmm.
but I could also see Arizona State upsetting Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I selfishly, and maybe this is just a little bit of Clemson hate in my heart, but selfishly, I really want to see the chess match between Sark and Kenny Dillingham. Like, I think that's a really fascinating, like, offensive mind matchup that I would really want to see on the field.
Oh yeah, then you also got the two coordinators of note with Arroyo and Kukowski going at it too, which would be cool.
Yeah,
Found out you just say his last name really fast, and that's how you do it. Kukowski.
Kukowski. I like it.
Kukowski.
It's the anti Andy Kotelnicki.
It's like the school that Miller Moss plays for now.
Louisville.
Well, at Athens, there's a place called Little Italy, which serves like really late night pizza.
Mm,
The point is, if you can say it in like one syllable, then that means it's time to go. It's literally,
literally. Yeah,
literally
100%. I could be dead ass sober and say it in one syllable, man.
I know we're from the South and we slur our words here. So let's move on to the final game here of the first round. We got the one that everybody's excited about. We got number 9, Tennessee going to number 8, Ohio State. Ohio State's laying 7. Um, I think Chris Landers wants to zoom through this. He doesn't want to watch a second of it.
He's so done with it, man. It's hilarious.
Ohio State's got slightly better players. I think they've got slightly better coaching, but the chemistry is just crap.
I
And
I don't know if they have better coaching, man. I really don't like. I don't think there is that many like dissimilarities between Josh Heupel and Ryan Day at this point. I really don't.
I think Jim Knowles is a little better than Tim Banks, but not considerably.
Not yeah, like maybe a little bit of advantage, but like I don't know, man. I don't think it's like when you would typically think about an Ohio State versus Tennessee matchup, I don't think the gap, if there is a gap in coaching overall, like you put the total picture together, I don't think like the gap is as considerable as some might say.
For sure. So here's kind of how I'm seeing it go. This is going to be by far and away the dumbest game of the
Oh
weekend.
yeah.
We're saving the worst for last. There's going to be like 6 turnovers. It's going to
Mhm.
be some of the worst football you've ever seen. Mostly just like the stage is going to be too big for Nico and Ohio State's going to self-combust. It's like who who basically carries their riding carcass to the finish line first is kind of how I'm seeing it.
I honestly, the more I look at this, well, the first thing I want to say is this is one of the games where people are talking about the environment change for Tennessee. Tennessee's suited to play Big Ten football this year. The way this roster is constructed, they run the football well. They don't have a lot of faith in their quarterback, and they have a phenomenal defense. Like, if that's not Big Ten football, I don't know what the hell is, because that is like the epitome of what we're talking about in the Big Ten. So I think they're perfectly constructed to play in this type of environment in this time of year. So I'm not worried about that aspect of it. Do you think the two matchups that really come to mind for me are I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but Ohio State's offensive line is still a problem. And I think in this matchup we're going to see it be a huge problem because the solution they had to Josh Simmons going down at left tackle at the end of the day ended up being taking their left guard and moving him out to left tackle. Well, that's where James Pierce Jr. lines up. And James Pierce Jr., he's an explosive fella. And the thing about guards is they tend to not be explosive. That's why they're playing guard and not tackle typically. I think that's going to cause a lot of problems. And when Will Howard's been under pressure this year, he's made some really dumb mistakes. When I come down to it, I think this matchup for Ohio State, and Ohio State fans, I'm sorry to say this to you, but I think it looks a lot like the Michigan game because I think Josh Heupel's smart enough that he's not going to ask Nico to win this game for them offensively. He's going to ask his defense and he's going to ask Dylan Sampson. And when I go back and I think about what happened in that Michigan game, particularly with Michigan's offense being able to score 13 points, which I wasn't sure was going to be possible going into that game, one of the things that they did really well, that Sharon Moore did really well in that game, was poke and prod at the Ohio State defense with the run game. It like there weren't a lot of chunk plays, but it was okay. We can get 3 or 4 yards in this gap here because their gap integrity right there is not great. Well, Dylan Sampson is not only capable of that. Tennessee offensive line is not only capable of that, but Dylan Sampson's a better player than Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards. Like he just is. And so I think that if you poke and prod, Tennessee is going to be able to have more success in the ground game. And I really worry about this Ohio State team because I've heard Ohio State fans already, or heard and seen Ohio State fans already say, well, Tennessee can't cover our receivers. That's going back to a narrative about Tennessee's defense in the beginning of the season when there were questions about the secondary. Tennessee's secondary actually grades out, according to PFF, as a top 16 coverage unit in the country. This secondary has performed way better than people expected. And if you're getting pressure on Will Howard quickly, I don't think those receivers are going to matter because I don't think Will Howard can make those throws.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot of throwing the ball in this game. I think another thing people don't realize, it does get cold in Knoxville. Like it's
Oh
in
yeah,
this,
100%.
it's in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, the parallel is a little bit lower than you know, Columbus, Ohio, but like not considerably. I mean,
Yeah.
there may be other elements in there as well. Tennessee has no issue playing in a massive stadium that seats over 100,000 people. They do it all the time.
They do it for like 2.5 months out of every season,
I
basically.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy how that shakes out. I think the biggest issue is I don't think Tennessee is gonna not Tennessee. I don't think Ohio State's gonna be able to run the football.
No, no. I mean, their run game has not been good based on the talent that they have in the backfield. Like, it's just not like you look at that Michigan game, and yes, you're talking about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Well, Tennessee's defensive front in the interior, not only do they have dudes there, they have a lot of dudes. They rotate in like 6 D tackles who are all probably going to play in the NFL one day. So like this is a group that may not have the top end talent, but depth wise, I think they make up for it. I think they're in like this when I think one of the reasons I was so quick to push back on your coaching point, I don't trust Chip Kelly in this spot. Chip Kelly
Yeah.
has made a lot of bad decisions this year in terms of his game plan, and I can see that happening again in this game because right we know that, and the other thing that I think that might be going under talked about at least a little bit is what are the vibes going to be like in Columbus? Because after the Michigan loss, it feels like everything, like you mentioned, our colleague Chris Landers, he's probably wearing his Mike Vrabel jersey, going to watching this game, ready for Mike Vrabel to take over for Ohio State. What are the vibes going to be like in that building? Like, are they really going to be like full throatedly behind Ryan Day? I have a really hard time seeing that based on the way things have been trending.
He's got a very interesting cross session because he's also a New York Giants fan. So he's
Yeah.
hoping for Vrabel for both of these. Like Scott Rogas on the Blog and Nerdy podcast yesterday, he was also with the Giants therapy session. He's like, just give me Vrabel, please. Like we need a head coach. Like
Need an
he
adult.
yeah, he shares my apprehension about Ben Johnson going to New York. He's like, we don't need to go the coordinator route. We need to probably go like court. We need to probably go like former head coach or like defensive mind. I think is probably what the Giants need right now.
I my wish casting as a Dallas Cowboys fan is that Mike McCarthy gets let walk from the Dallas Cowboys and the Giants are left with Mike McCarthy as their head coach. Which I actually don't hate for the Giants, to be very clear. Like I don't think that's the worst idea in the world.
I mean, to counterbalance that, Jughead's your head coach. He's coming down
Yeah.
from Philly. That's
Exactly.
we know how that goes. So I'm gonna pay. This is the game I'm the most confident about. This is exactly how it's gonna end, and I can't wait for people to be all mad when they do win. And that's fine. They could totally win, but Ohio State's gonna be up 2017 inside of 2 minutes. They will have used all their timeouts for something dumb. They're gonna run the football, and then they're gonna cough it up, and they're gonna lose 24-20, and then everybody on that coaching staff gets fired.
So we're seeing a very similar scoreline because I'm going 21-20 in this game, Tennessee. And I don't know if you saw the report yesterday, but Ryan Day hasn't picked a kicker for this game. He does not have a
Uh,
kicker. And when have kicking woes ever hurt Ohio State in the college football playoff? You know, you're wearing a Georgia pullover right now, and I think you might remember a time where kicking may have hurt Ohio State.
Happy New Year.
That's right. Happy New Year indeed.
But yeah, so I think we picked all the same teams and everything like that. Obviously, the winner of this game is going to be placing Oregon in the Rose Bowl. I think whoever wins this game can beat Oregon too. I think
Mhm.
Oregon might potentially redcoat it. I trust Tennessee. Honestly, I think no. I think I would take Ohio State to beat Oregon more than I would take Tennessee if they had a rematch potentially. But then again, I don't trust it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably picking whoever wins this game to beat Oregon because the two things that I do think about this team, even though we just crapped on Ohio State's run game, Oregon's run defense has been pretty bad down the stretch, and like it hasn't clipped them yet because I don't think they played a team that has the defense to be able to back that up. Both Ohio State and Tennessee have the defense to be able to back that up, and I think that that could really bite Oregon in that matchup.
For sure. And one thing is we don't know, man. Like
Yeah.
this is the first of its kind. We know as much as you. The lines haven't moved a lot, so that's really what that all indicates. So Cody and I have the same four teams advancing. We have Indiana upsetting Notre Dame to face Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Hmm.
We have Penn State holding serve, beating SMU to go on to face Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl.
Hmm.
We have Texas blowing out Clemson to go to who are they? Oh, they're playing Arizona State, the
Yeah,
Peach
it's the
Bowl. Yeah.
Peach Bowl, baby.
Yeah. I'm going that game. It's crazy. And then we got Ohio State beating Tennessee to go face Oregon in the
Ten
Rose Bowl.
Tennessee beating Ohio State.
Tennessee beating Ohio State. I
Yeah,
was so
okay.
close to figure it out. Yeah. The sun's coming in right now. Tennessee. Yes.
Just one bit of advice for the Peach Bowl. Make sure you don't touch Sark because we know he doesn't like that.
No, no, touching him, he doesn't like being touched at all.
No touchy. No touchy.
No wonder why he got divorced again.
Could it be
Uh,
intimate?
No, there's no into me, but into me, I see. Let's move on to the next topic with some four for four. Yes. So we already did this. So we've already forecasted that Ohio State is going to be the first Big Ten team to lose at home. So we're going to remove them from the equation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the team in each Power Four league that we think in this new expanded playoff to be the first team to lose a home playoff game. So Notre Dame would technically be the ACC, but we're not going to
Yeah.
count that. So, who's the first team you think has it in them to lose a home playoff game in the ACC?
In the ACC, so obviously we're not going to have a home playoff game in the ACC. So we're forecasting for years to come. I'm going to go outside the box. I'm going to say Louisville because I talked on Monday about Miller Moss going to Louisville, and I think Louisville is going to be in that ACC championship mix. And I think with Jeff Brom, that's going to be a consistent theme with Louisville. They're going to be in that mix, and I think one year they're going to get one of these top four seeds, or an at-large berth where they lose in the ACC championship game after a really good season. And when that happens, I do think that we get into a spot where Louisville kind of is like this year's Indiana, where they're going to get into matchups where they're just physically overwhelmed because they don't have the requisite talent level from recruiting and that baseline to be able to hang with some of these teams.
That was my backup one, so I had to. But yeah, I'm right there with you. They're going to be at a talent disadvantage. It'd be the same thing if Indiana was hosting, Notre Dame in some aspects. There's a potential where that sets them up for failure in some capacities. And this could be next year. This could be in 2, 3 years. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm seeing. My pick is Miami because of Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's absolutely fair.
Yeah, I think there's a chance where like they get to the ACC championship next year, they lose to SMU or Louisville or something like that. And they get in, the ACC is strong, and they're like the 8, 9, then they lose to like Georgia or something.
I can tell you why I didn't choose Miami for this. It's because I don't have faith in Mario Cristobal to get to the playoff, man.
Now, like I'm thinking other teams, like I think by the time that like SMU is having a home playoff game, they'll be ready.
Yeah.
Clemson, I don't really the same sort of thing too. So it's a much harder pool to pull from. Unless Georgia Tech has a fantastic season, I think that they could overlook it too, because I think the lack of a home crowd advantage could hurt them. But like,
Well,
but I
that's
think
also in play with Louisville and Miami. Miami and Louisville are two teams that don't have the same home field advantages that like you look at this year's first round playoff games. South Bend, Happy Valley, Austin, and in the shoe. Like those are real home field advantages and like not on the level of what Miami and Louisville would be able to offer.
I think there's the pit of it all. I don't even know how to even factor that in.
Now, Pitt's not losing a home playoff game. Pat Narduzzi might forfeit because he goes out there and like punches an opposing coach, but like he's not going to lose a home playoff game.
I know we're down 41-10, but I'm going to punch this referee in the throat.
That's right.
Send it in. Okay. Big Ten is up next. We already have Ohio State projected as the first team to do it. If beyond them, like who has it in them to lose a home playoff game?
I mean, kind of to your Mario Cristobal point, it's got to be Penn State, man.
Yeah.
Like it's very James Franklin-y to lose a home playoff game, and like even though we're both like thinking it's going to be pretty comfortable against SMU, I still wouldn't be like the most shocked if James Franklin laid an egg in a big game like this.
I think so too. I think that's the very clear and obvious answer. I wish I had Really good follow-up to that. I would say the two others that are coming to mind pretty quickly are Michigan and Iowa.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That would be tough. Man.
Also, I could see USC losing at home too.
Oh yeah. Much like Mario Cristobal, at this point, I don't know how the hell USC's getting to the playoff, but
So between Michigan, Iowa, and USC, I would probably go Michigan just because
yeah.
I feel that like they had the chance to get in as an at-large probably more than the other two.
Yeah, and I also think like Michigan, I understand Jim Harbaugh's gone, but you think narratively, like Michigan is a program that when they have their success, it builds. And so like it feels like say Michigan gets Bryce Underwood into the mix, they make the playoff next year as an at-large, they host a playoff game, but like you're still young, you're still trying to get the roster where you want it to be. You lose that game, then you win a playoff game the next year, and then you're like competing for you're really competing for a national championship the year after that. Like that's kind of the Michigan modus operandi.
Yeah, like you could lose the 5-12 next year to Colorado.
Exactly, 100%.
Okay, that's pretty good. We're making a really good time on this one. Big 12. Yeah, yeah, good luck figuring this out. This is
Whoever
do
makes
you
the playoff, like whoever makes the playoff, like that's where I'm at with this. I don't know.
there will be years where they will get two teams in because
Oh
they
yeah,
had they had
100%.
that before. So my pick is Kansas State.
Okay, I like that. That's actually a really good call. I like that a lot. My pick, I went with Utah just because, like, I think Utah, even though we saw them have a really down year and like we're going to see a changing of the guard from Kyle Whittingham here soon, like I still think this program is in a good enough spot that we're going to see playoff appearances from them. We're going to see them in the mix in a Big 12 that is so erratic and Utah traditionally has been so steady. Like I do think that eventually water will find its level with that and that Utah will make a playoff. But I think we've seen with Utah in years past that that only takes you so far. That only gets you to the finish line, not across the finish line. And I think that's where I come down with Utah.
And then you look at other teams who could potentially win the Big 12, like next year. Okay, Iowa State, I feel like if they I don't feel like they lose their first game if they made the playoff.
Yeah, if they're good enough to get there, I have a lot of faith in Matt Campbell being able to get that done.
Kind of feel the same way with Colorado with Deion Sanders. And there was one other Big 12 team. It's not BYU, it's somebody else that could like, who is it? I'm trying to
Texas
think.
Tech.
Uh, sure. You know what? I don't think Baylor would lose their first round game. I think they've had like maybe it's Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU. So yeah, you're getting down there to the K-State, Utahs, and like, yeah, they could do that's the play.
What about in a world where Oklahoma State rebounds completely from what we just saw this year, and you can think about good Oklahoma State football again? Do you think they would lose their first playoff game? Because I definitely do.
Absolutely. I don't even know what Gundy would do in that situation.
Gundy might not show up. He might just be like hunting.
Gator's hibernating. I don't go out there. Gator, it's too cold for Gator. I don't do this. This is why I coach in college. I gotta keep him inside.
Too cold for Gator, too cold for me.
And then the SEC, the first SEC team you think that could lose a home playoff game.
I think I'm gonna go with, and this is, a little counterintuitive considering that we just picked them to win their first round playoff game, but I think Tennessee makes a lot of sense. Like, I understand that Neyland is a really tough place to play, but we have seen this Josh Heupel offense be figured out, whether that's by Georgia, whether that's by whoever. Like we have seen it be figured out, and I think there's too many talented defensive minds in the country right now to not think that that might happen in a playoff game. And I think that, frankly, Tennessee's just the most susceptible to that because this is, I mean, in terms of programs in recent history having been in these spots, Tennessee has the least amount of experience in that.
I think that's the right one. So between these two, this is my pick. It's either Mizzou or Texas A&M.
I like the Texas A&M one a lot. I really like the Texas A&M one.
Yeah, because I feel like if Mizzou gets in the playoff, they're going to be like 9, 10, 11, 12. It's going to be hard for me to see them unless they have like the Chase Daniel living on Taco Bell year.
Yeah. You know who I considered for this, and then the more I thought about it, the more I do not think they would lose a home playoff game is Auburn.
No,
Like, I think that if Auburn gets if Hugh Freeze actually gets this thing rolling and they get to the playoff, which That roster's looking a lot better than I thought it was going to at this point. I don't know if we'll talk portal in a second, but Eric Singleton Jr. was crystal balled to Auburn, pairing him with Cam Coleman and Jackson Arnold. That's pretty damn good. That would scare me if I'm an SEC team, but I think that, I don't know, man. Like, I have enough faith in Hugh Freeze that if this is the right build, if this is the right plan, that when they get to that spot, Jordan Hare's a really tough place to play.
Eric Singleton Jr. really hates some Georgia then.
Yeah.
Both those other teams, like I don't think Auburn would lose. I don't think South Carolina would lose.
No.
I don't think Florida would lose.
Get sandstormed to death in South Carolina, baby.
Just a bunch of roosters crowing and stuff. It's cold as ass. I think Oklahoma could do it, and I also think that LSU could potentially lose at home.
Yeah, oh,
Which is which,
I like LSU. LSU and Texas A&M are dark horses in this. I like those two a lot.
okay, so that was a lot of fun, and we're done with the playoffs right now. We're going on to he gone, he coming.
Hmm.
Okay, Dave Clawson resigned at Wake Forest, and Jake Dickert left Washington State to go there. Brian Smith is now officially taking over at Ohio U after being the interim. Phil Longo is the Sam Houston head coach, and Jason Eck, who was coaching somewhere else, is now at New Mexico. I did some research on this last night a little bit, but also I think it's Brian Smith, I believe, or is it Brian? Is it Brian Smith or Ohio U? One of them. Is it Brian Smith? No, I'm looking at this terribly wrong. One of them was like, yeah, Brian Smith was on like the Nick Rolovich, Jake Dickert stuff at like Hawaii.
Oh yeah, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so he's all over the place. So he's dealt with some nonsense.
He knows all about nonsense, which you're in the MAC, so get ready for some more nonsense.
And Jason Eck, I almost missed that one. Jason Eck, he was at yeah, he was Idaho. He did a great job at Idaho. Yeah, so that's
Hmm.
nothing coming right there. I think he's potentially could be the next Jeff Choate.
Yeah, no, I like the Jason Eck hire for New Mexico because you lose Bronco Mendenhall after 1 year. That's a tough spot for that program to be in. You lose Devin Dampier to the portal, but Jason Eck at Idaho, it's really not dissimilar from the job you're going to have to do at New Mexico. You're in a region where in geographic proximity to some talented regions, but you're not in a talented region yourself. Like, frankly, you're in a low population state, which always is going to be a disadvantage, whether that's Idaho or New Mexico. So, like, knowing how to navigate those challenges and then develop players, find the right guys, target the right guys, whether that's in state or out of state. Like, I think he's the right, like, at least in theory, that is a smart hire by the Lobos.
For sure. So I'm getting around to that too. You Phil Longo to Sam Houston. That makes sense to me. I don't like this one.
So on the surface, I hate it. On the surface, I do not like it at all. But if I'm being optimistic and I'm trying to talk you into it, what I would say is Sam Houston, one of the things that I think they had a good season this year after, a really down season their first year in FBS. But one of the things that stood out to me about Sam Houston was I felt like they lacked an identity a lot of the time. Like they would get into different game scripts and it seems like they didn't have an identity. Phil Longo, you know what you're going to get. You know what he wants to do. And so like in a league like CUSA where frankly it's probably the worst G5 league that we have top to bottom. Like it's just not that high quality of a league, but it's super competitive. And those schematic advantages can play really in your favor. I think you get Phil Longo, even if it's not the high end recruits, you're still able to recruit in Texas. You're able to get that Texas level of athlete. And I think running that in Phil Longo's spread offense, I think that could actually benefit Sam Houston in the long run. So, like, I don't hate it as much as I initially thought, which it has a lot to do with my feelings on Phil Longo and his time at North Carolina and his time in Wisconsin. But I think, like, if he's going to be a head coach, a place like Sam Houston in CUSA actually makes some sense.
Okay, I can kind of get behind that a little bit more. As I was doing some research, didn't realize this. Casey Keeler, he's 65, so
I,
that's
I did not. He looks good for 65.
yeah, I know. I'm saying like he's getting up there. And the guy is just UNC has hired a 72-year-old head coach, so who knows what's good.
I mean, Bill Belichick's going to live to be 130, so I'm not really worried about it.
I know he's going to be like one of those guys. He's on Facebook. He's like he's been older. He's been alive for 3 centuries.
100%. He's just going to be fossilized. He's going to end up being like Richard Nixon's head from Futurama at some point.
Yeah, so also we do a Futurama or a Beck Hansen episode. So
Yeah.
where I with Bender being the washboard.
That's
Okay, so we got that all squared away. We got to talk about the big changes, which I think I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say this. Jake Dickert to Wake Forest is the best hire of the offseason. That was fantastic. It's so
Oh,
good.
dude, I absolutely loved it. And I saw the news yesterday morning and I just tweeted out, wow, I actually really like high key love this for Wake. And like Wake Forest fans found the tweet and I think they agree. But like you look at what Dave Clawson was able to do throughout his tenure at Wake Forest, and it was basically make a hole out of spare parts. Like that's kind of the challenges of Wake Forest. It's a small school. It's hard to get into academically, and you're competing with a lot of bigger programs in that region for talent. So the fact that he was able to have the success at Wake Forest that he did really shows like his moxie, the slow mesh, like finding your system. Well, Jay Dickert, we've seen the same thing at Wazoo. You're not the most attractive program in Washington. You're not the most attractive program in the Pacific Northwest. You're facing a lot of the same similar challenges. And he still had Wazoo winning Apple Cups. He still had Wazoo making runs in the Pac-12, going on a long undefeated run this year, despite not having a conference, despite facing the challenges that come with that, including the financial challenges. So like when you look at everything that Jake Dickert does, it seems like it's going to be obviously a little bit different schematically, but on the whole, it is absolutely like a perfect transition period for Wake Forest.
Yes, and for Dave Clawson resigning, like he's just going to go into like an administrative role. He'll
Mhm.
probably end up doing some like Chris Peterson TV stuff. I figured he'd be pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Um, he probably it's kind of like the same thing with Nick Saban. He's like, I think this DeBoer guy is my guy, and
Yeah.
Dickert. I wish he could have brought John Batier with him, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is a fantastic hire. This is gonna be like as good as it was under Dave Clawson,
Hmm.
best as it was under Jim Grobe, probably better than it was under Jim Caldwell. This is um this is something that Wake Forest can be really excited about. Our Metamedia colleague, fan-sided colleague Emma Lincoln was like freaking out about Wake Forest. Is like Dave Clawson, trust me, this is gonna be okay. I don't know if you can see him this show, but yeah, it's gonna be okay with Jake Dickert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're in good hands now. Like, it's not Dave Clawson's leaving and you're just left picking up the pieces. Like, Jay Dickert is not picking up the pieces higher. This is we're going to keep this thing going. We're going to have it going in a really good direction. Also, like when you talk about Dave Clawson going into administrative role and just kind of taking less responsibility, more or less. You know what it honestly reminds me of in a very positive way when I say this? Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin. Like stepping back into that administrative role, but like you still have the same vision. You still have the same things that have made your program successful, and like I think when you look at Luke Fickell, that's the first hire outside of that Barry Alvarez type of mold where you're like, okay, this is the vision, this is the vision. They tried to aim big with the Luke Fickell, it didn't work out. This seems like it's a continuation of the vision with Dave Clawson and what Wake Forest needs to do.
Yes, Wake Forest. I think obviously Dave Clawson is like especially his kids, so that's kind of why he's staying
Mhm.
here and doing all that stuff. People in Winston-Salem love him. My
Yeah.
brother-in-law is WFU alum, so they're all about Coach Dave and all the good stuff he did
Yeah.
for the school and everything like that. Bad time for our friend Braulio Pros with Washington State. Where do you think Washington State even goes?
Bro, I have no clue. Like I really don't. Like I you like I my first instinct would be you hire from within, but you can't do that because the OC is now at Oklahoma. So like I really don't know where you go. I think my first inclination, because the other thing that really hurts Washington State in this spot is you're still kind of in limbo in terms of conference. Like, yes, the Pac-12 is being reformed, but you're not there yet. So you don't really have that revenue really coming your way. So you're probably financially constrained. I don't know, man. I think you probably have to look somewhere. I would almost say like at the FCS level and potentially make a hire from there. Maybe I don't I'm blanking on his name. Do you remember the South Dakota State head coach's name?
No, I don't remember.
Uh,
Uh,
da, 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 give me 1 second. Live research. That is Jimmy Rogers. And
Jimmy.
yeah, and like I think like you get aggressive trying to make a hire like that because Jimmy Rogers, he's an Arizona, like he's from Chandler, Arizona, but he played at South Dakota State. He is at alma mater, and he came up through the coaching ranks at South Dakota State. but in 2 years as a head coach, he is 27-2. Like that is a ton of success. Like you have the Jackrabbits absolutely humming right now. And I think that he's an offensive mind. Like South Dakota State's offense is just gangbusters every time they play in the FCS. And I think like with the financial constraints, you might be able to have him for relatively cheap. Because I know, like, even if you do have financial constraints, you don't have the same financial constraints that you do in South Dakota. So, like, you can offer a check that makes enticing. But outside of that, I don't know where you would go. Like, do you hire a Dirk Cutter from Boise State? I don't think Dirk Cutter would want that job, quite frankly. Like, I think they're in a really tough spot.
I've got two names, and this is all about being connected to Mike Leach. Neil Brown needs a job,
Mhm.
and I also feel that Eric Morrison is next year on the really hot seat. Maybe this is an opportunity to reset it, and maybe Scott Satterfield. Maybe he leaves.
I, I can let me just send a very sincere message to Pullman, Washington right now. Don't do that. Just don't do that.
Yeah, don't do Satterfield. Maybe the other two. You could probably that'd be all right.
Yeah, 100%.
Because Neil Brown had a lot of success at Troy, but everybody but Jared Parker had success there. So that's interesting. I guess like the last thing with he gone, he coming that I would say is this is going to be a do Haas thing, but with Dave Clawson resigning, he's not eligible for the Pro Football or the College Football Hall of Fame because his win percentage isn't high enough.
Hmm.
I mean, he's won at four different places. He's won at Fordham and Richmond at the FCS level. He's won at
Yeah.
Bowling Green. He's won at Wake Forest. Like he now joins that same group of people like Pete Carroll, Eric Russell, Mike Leach, Howard Schnellenberger that aren't eligible because of they didn't coach long enough, like a Russell or Carroll, or don't have the winning percentage that you need, like Howard Schnellenberger or Mike Leach. Like I feel that Dave Clawson, what he did, where he was at, like it mattered. He created an offense. He created a slow mesh. Bruce Feldman's going to put him in there because his kids run that offense in flag football.
That's right. No, like I I think that when I think about the like obviously not being eligible, I think Dave Clawson might be like the final pin that we need to drop in this to like actually see some changes to the College Football Hall of Fame like selection process to some degree. Because like you said, these names are starting to pile up, and it kind of comes back to me and like my thought on any Hall of Fame is you need the Hall of Fame should tell the story of your sport. And we're starting to pile up names and that aren't eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame based on the current criteria that you're starting to lose some of the like the story of the sport because you can't tell the story of the ACC over the past 10 to 15 years without talking about Wake Forest. You can't tell the story of the air raid offense without talking about Mike Leach and so on and so forth. Like you're starting to lose the story of college football. And if that is the College Football Hall of Fame's like actual goal, then you start to have to change the criteria to fit what you need to the actual purpose of the Hall of Fame. Because if the purpose of the Hall of Fame is you win a lot of games, then it's meaningless in my opinion.
Like, look, Wake Forest is one of the least successful programs in FBS level. Like,
Yeah.
they're towards the bottom of it with like the Kent States of the world. You need
Mhm.
to celebrate the entire sport. You need to have people in there where like, if you're gonna come to Atlanta, Georgia, and go check this out and see who's in the Hall of Fame, you need to have somebody there that like you can be proud of.
Mhm.
Like Kent State had like what Jack was it Jack Lambert, I think
Yeah,
was
Jack
was
Lambert. Yeah.
yeah, Jack Lambert was there. Don James coached there. Nick Saban played there. James Harrison was there. Like
Mhm.
the Danny, Julian Edelman. Like there's people like that. But Wake Forest just doesn't really have that. And I think you
Mhm.
can look at it from the time that Clawson was there. You've had people like play quarterback like John Walford, Jamie Newman, Sam Hartman.
Mhm.
Uh, Not really Hank Bachmeier, but
I
you do
was just about to I was
have
just about to take a shot at Hank Bachmeier too.
yeah, but that's kind of how that goes there with Wake Forest. So I hope that they figure this out. So like I said, the Arizona State podcast, I finished watching The Good Place. There's part of it. I'm gonna spoil it for anybody else who wants to watch the show. Fantastic show, but let's just say the let's just say the point system is wrong,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of unintended consequences with life, and I mean, to win games, to take Wake Forest to an ACC championship game in the modern era of college football is insane. You create an offense. You're basically, we're going to redshirt everybody. We're going to get as old as we possibly can. you're at the smallest Power Four school in the country, the only FBS school smaller than just Tulsa, which is also private. Like
Mhm.
it should show that like even here you can have success, and that was Dave Clawson.
Yeah, and I mean you have success based on coaching excellence. Like that's literally what it comes down to. And so like I'm 100% on board with you. And like honestly, there's a lot of issues I have with the Baseball Hall of Fame, but I do think that their idea of putting people on the ballot and you only get off the ballot if you don't get enough votes. I can't imagine that being if you make the criteria for the College Football Hall of Fame for coaches a little less stringent than it currently is. There's not a media member or a voter in the country who's not going to vote for Dave Clawson or Mike Leach. Like that's just the like, and that tells you everything you need to know about why the criteria currently is wrong.
It's really stupid. And speaking about things that are wrong, talk Portal to me. Let's move on to
That's
that.
right.
It's getting a little wild out here. I try to get this updated as quickly as possible. Washington State quarterback John Mateer transferred to Oklahoma like we forecasted. Florida State quarterback Luke Kromenhoek is going to go to Mississippi State, play for Jeff Lebby.
Hmm.
Aaron Noland left Ohio State. Zachariah Branch is leaving USC. And then there's just some stuff with Alabama going on with Ryan Williams and Jalen Mbakwe, no, namely. So I think the Mateer thing, it's pretty straightforward. This is
Hmm.
Oklahoma had to do this. This makes Oklahoma viable. He can actually play quarterback, unlike Jackson Arnold. Puts an insane amount of pressure on Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables next year. This is probably the best thing to happen to Oklahoma since Lincoln Riley left.
No, I mean like it was the move they had to make. Like I would think people would probably be shocked if they saw the NIL bag that John Mateer is getting for this because he was a coveted commodity, but like Oklahoma could not lose him because if not, what are your options? Like, who are you bringing into this equation that you have any type of connection to that you can actually get into the building? And there's not a whole lot of options. This is a relatively weak quarterback class overall in the portal right now. So, like, you look at that and it's you lost one of the best quarterbacks in the portal in Jackson Arnold. So, like, if you don't get John Mateer, you're left with basically a downgrade. And so like bringing Mateer in, that's absolutely massive for Oklahoma. I I'm still not sold on the Sooners to be very clear about that, but like this is a step in the right direction.
Totally. I feel it's a really good one. Luke Kromenhoek to Mississippi State. I actually like this one a lot. Jeff
Mhm.
Lebby just was like, I want a guy who's going to be here for a few years and just sling the ball. He wanted it. He's like, I'll do anything to get away from Tallahassee, even if it means going to Starkville.
Yeah, Starkville greater than Tallahassee, apparently. But no, I think when we mentioned Croman going into the portal, you and I talked about the idea of like, why is he rated so high? And it's definitely based off recruiting ranking. It's definitely not based on anything that he's shown on a college football field to this point. But I think that's the perfect guy for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State to go get. Like that's exactly what they want. They want someone who's going to be there long term, someone that they can commit to and develop, who obviously has tools to be a former five-star quarterback. And Jeff Lebby's going to like the trademark of a Jeff Lebby offense is your quarterback gets it put on easy mode. Like it makes everything life easier for him. And so what better way to develop and start maximizing that talent than to give him the easy mode offense and get him in the building and start to develop, especially after you just lost Michael Van Buren Jr.
Yeah, exactly. You had something pretty good there with MVBJ, and you're like, okay, darn, he's going to be going to regional rival LSU. We got to get somebody in here who's going to play for a few years to kind of create some sort of level of competence here, and maybe Cromanhook can be that. Upside there is pretty good. Maybe a challenging first year, but Mississippi State, like they'll probably win about 4 or 5 games next year, and then I think in 2 years just kind of win like. Even though Mississippi State went 2-10, I think we were both pretty impressed with what Jeff
Mhm.
Lebby did this past year.
No, they had, I mean, it was even with it in a 2-win season, like you, you look at 2 or 1-win seasons across the board, like Florida State didn't have buy-in by the end of the season. Mississippi
Yeah.
State had buy-in. Those guys were still playing hard. They weren't good. Like that's just what it came down to. Also, MVBJ, you got to stop saying that because I'm gonna laugh at it every time.
It's I'm not going I'm not going to vote early and vote often is
That's right.
I want to make sure you don't get canceled here. So let's talk about some Air Noland now.
Mhm.
So he leaves Ohio State. This seems like that's the quarterback transfer. Everybody's saying like, okay, Julian Sayin might leave or whatnot. Devin Brown, whatever he's doing. Maybe he gave up on football. Who knows?
He's going pro in something other than sports.
Ripping Sigs.
That's right.
Aaron Noland, I have a feeling is probably going to be coming home. I think Georgia Tech makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Georgia Tech was the first place I thought of with his mobility, with his ability to, you know, kind of keep defenses on their toes in theory at least. Like he seems like a perfect successor to Haynes King after the 2025 season.
Yeah, also with Zach Pyron transferring to
Hmm.
Minnesota, you need some depth there. That makes sense too. I think Georgia could potentially kick the tires on him as well, just from like a local product
Hmm.
standpoint. But I still think that like it's going to come down. I think they're really in the market for Fernando Mendoza. I think that's where Georgia's
Yeah,
kind of landing right now, them or Indiana.
100%. Yeah, and you know we did. You know we'll talk about it in a second, but there is a potential player in the quarterback market that's now not as much in the quarterback market. So you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yes, that's true. Yeah. I'm like, are you changing this on the fly? So
No, 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 no.
no, no, no. Zachariah Branch is leaving
Mm,
USC. Same with Deuce Robinson. I wonder if they're all going to go to Louisville and everything like that. This is, if USC loses their bowl game, they might fire him. They might fire Lincoln
they
Riley.
might. They really might. I weirdly enough, and for all the problems USC has, I freaking love Zachariah Branch. I want to see this guy in a functional situation and see where he can go. And the way things are looking currently, it seems like wherever he wants to go, they'll take him. Like they'll give him the bag that he wants to go. And one interesting thing that happened on this fine Thursday morning was Dallas Wilson, five-star recruit from this current cycle removed his letter of intent paperwork from Oregon and is now projected to go to Florida. And there's some speculation that that sounds like Zachariah Branch going to Oregon, and that makes a ton of sense. That seems like an absolute Oregon type of move. The team, like, I know there's been six teams mentioned with Zachariah Branch to this point, but the teams that make the most sense to me in terms of teams with the bag and teams with the need and teams that would be perfect fits. I look at Oregon, I look at Texas, and I look at Georgia. And I think those three teams could all use a player of his caliber.
Yeah, if you're looking at the tea leaves, that Oregon kind of makes sense. You're probably going to lose Evan Stewart to the draft or
Hmm.
anything like that.
Tez Johnson as well.
Tez Johnson, especially. Yeah, Oregon's got all the money that they would need. Georgia, Texas are going to lose people. I mean, I think Dominic Lovett's out of eligibility too. Arian Smith's out of eligibility. So
Yeah.
you got to kind of go in a different direction. The Georgia receiving core can't be leaning on London Humphreys, is
No,
basically.
that's not a world you want to be living in.
No, so I also think Arizona could also be a dark horse for Zachariah Branch because I saw Nova Fita's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. My worry with Arizona is I don't think they can pay the man. So like they'll be like, "Hey, do you want this like $1.1 million NIL deal?" And Oregon's like, "Hey, do you want like Nike stock?" Like, we'll give you whatever you want.
Do you want do you want to be written into Phil Knight's last will and testament?
Exactly. Yeah, like there's levels to this NIL thing, and Arizona's not on that level.
They are not. So that's also very interesting too. But also the Alabama of it all. I think Ryan Williams tried to convince Jalen Mbakwe not to transfer. Kalen DeBoer's having a very interesting last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to keep an eye on with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama because it seems like this is going to work out in Alabama's favor. Like it seems like Williams has been able to convince Mbakwe and also not enter the portal himself, which some people were speculating was happening. I mean, tampering is rampant. We know that. We've known that for
Yeah.
some time. It's happening all over the place. There's a reason these guys are entering with do not contact tags. Like that doesn't happen if you already know where you're going and what the deal is. But he's able to convince these two to stay in the NIL boost or the Alabama NIL fund is able and collective is able to do that as well. But you look back to last year when DeBoer was hired, you lost Caleb Downs, you lost Julian Sand, you lost all these different guys, you lost Isaiah Bond as well. So like you lost a ton of guys in the portal then. And it seems like we might be able to, we're trending towards maybe that happening again. You prevented this one, but who's the next one to go? Like Caleb Odom's already in the portal, a huge former five-star freshman. I think he's 6'5", 227. That's a healthy young man. Like it's something I'm keeping my eye on with DeBoer is this roster retention because yes, every program in the country is going to lose players to the portal. That's just the modern college football that we live in. But if you're losing key contributors and you're not able to retain the guys who are supposed to be key contributors for you down the line, which Ryan Williams was as a 17-year-old true freshman this year, and you're already being threatened to lose him, like that worries me a little bit about DeBoer in this Alabama program.
I'm less concerned about losing players. I'm concerned about losing coordinators. I think at this point, you need to basically retain your guys for 3 years to create some level of new stability. Or
Yeah.
what's the new level now for Alabama? You're not going to be Nick Saban, Alabama. Maybe you'll be on the level of Georgia and Texas or something, which is lower because that's Alabama was the best. But then maybe you get down to the point where like, okay, maybe we're Josh Heupel, Tennessee, maybe we're Brian Kelly, LSU. Like, where are we? And once you
Yeah.
figure out where you are, then you can build because people will want to go there. Alabama's got great facilities, they got a great fan base, they got great infrastructure, they got great pretty much everything. They're just in the midst of a transitional period, and transitions are hard.
Transitions are hard, and they're also glasses.
I wasn't ready for that, but speaking of a guy who has no problem transitioning, we're going to put Diego Pavia back in the slot
That's right.
because he got another year of eligibility because New Mexico Military Institute didn't count. He's allowed to come back. I think that's how it goes. He may return to Vanderbilt. He may go somewhere else. I would venture to guess he'll stay at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, right after the announcement in the news that Diego Pavia was granted another year of eligibility, our friend from formerly of 24/7 Sports, Barton Simmons, tweeted out, "Oh, y'all thought we were done." So I think he might be staying at Vanderbilt because at least Barton Simmons seems to think so. But I mean, that's awesome for Vanderbilt. Like you can my big worry with Vanderbilt was how do you build off of this season? You obviously built a ton of momentum with what you were able to do this season for a Vanderbilt program that had been, frankly, pretty stagnant and like having a really hard time getting any type of positive snowball effect. Getting Diego Pavia back, that gives you a chance to stack back-to-back bowl seasons. And if you do that, then you can really start to build on that. You can attract another transfer quarterback to get in there. You can make this thing cyclical because that's what college football is at this point. It literally the point that you were just making about Alabama finding your level and then being able to build off of that. Diego Pavia returning to Vanderbilt for another year gives them the chance to start that cycle, show recruits, show transfers where that level is and where they can go up from there.
And a word that I always like, I try to explain to my mom with this with sports over the years is like for someone to be good, someone has to be bad. There's only
Hmm.
so many wins to be had. So I feel for as long as Vanderbilt's good, Auburn's going to be bad.
Okay.
Th- and
Well, I mean, as
they're
long as Hugh
playing,
Freeze is at Auburn and Diego Pavia's at Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt's going to beat Auburn.
and because all the SEC games invert, um, he freezes coming to Music City, baby.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy for Diego Pavia. I mean, the only sad part is we kind of did the slot because we thought this was like his last year. But maybe he's just going to get ready and build up his draft stock to be the number one overall pick by the Tennessee Titans in 2026. Because I was talking to Scott Rogist about this. Like the first two quarterbacks off the board are going to be Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders to the Raiders or Giants, and then
Mhm.
you're looking at the Titans, which I think that's where Sam Darnold's going to go.
Ooh, I think that probably makes a lot of sense and probably the best decision for Sam Darnold because the other quarterback needy teams, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm not touching with a 10-foot pole.
No, and then like Beck will go wherever Todd Monken's coaching next year.
Yeah, 100%. I can see that.
So that could be Chicago, that could be Cleveland,
Where,
Jacksonville.
where's your boy Kurt going? Cleveland?
Um, I don't know. Like, who needs a quarterback? I don't want to
Cleveland
say
can't
it.
afford him. That's the
No,
unfortunate
like
part.
Cleveland can't afford him. He might go to San Francisco.
Ooh, I like that. I could see that.
Yeah, go to San Francisco because Purdy, something like that. Maybe go to Miami. replace Tua. The Giants have been kind of tied to them, and Scott's just like, no. And I'm like,
Please no, please no.
I asked him all he wants for Tishmas is blank.
Scott is living and dying with every Giants quarterback rumor, and it's been one of the joys of my life to follow along with it because like there was a little brief run before Drew Aller announced that he was returning to Penn State next year, that Drew Aller in this year's draft was going to be like a top two pick to the Giants, and he was like, "Look, I like Drew Aller, but not this year. Please do not do that."
I think you guys have slapped hands, and you're going to the basement of fanside.com, team fandom hell right now,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's at the bottom. He said he rescinded being a Yankees fan. I'm like, okay, I don't believe you, but that's fine. And then
He's been wearing a Mets hat every day. He's trying, if nothing else, he's trying to convince us.
is he really? Yeah.
Yeah, he I think it might be done. I think he's just completely done with the Yankees, which hey, I fully support that decision.
That's fine. He's also saying like he's like, Rutgers is now stable, the Knicks are stable, and the Rangers, which were always stable, aren't stable. So he's really going through it.
It's a tough time out there.
It's a tough time up there, but it's not as tough of a time when you're bringing Antonio Banderas with you for some bowling, 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 bowling. Yes, we're gonna recap two games. We're gonna preview for because Monday's episode, it's gonna be our Christmas themed episode. We will be recording
Mhm.
on a Monday, but it's gonna be kind of in its own separate time and space. And then we'll be back with probably some graphic design is my passion on the day
Yeah,
after
we are.
Christmas.
That's right.
And then we're also doing 3 yards in a cloud of punt after Tennessee, Ohio State on Saturday evening. So,
Mhm.
okay. So we're gonna recap the two games that we went to. Looking at this, we saw Memphis barely beat West Virginia in the Frisco Bowl. Obviously, the lasting image of this was obviously Antonio banging a empty handle of Johnny Walker on his Frisco coffee tin, trying to celebrate with Ryan Silverfield. Ryan Silverfield wanted no part of this.
Ryan Silverfield, I was actually fearing for Antonio's, theoretical life at this point because Ryan Silverfield did not look happy. He had a hot, Scooter's coffee with him, and I was like, he's going to melt this rubber man. Like that is going to happen.
He was going to take a coffee pot of Scooter's coffee and smash it on his face like
Yeah,
Matheson.
yeah. I synced it.
I see. And that image of Antonio wearing like a giant, oversized Folgers tin, like he's like a barrel. That's an image I'm never gonna forget.
Unfortunately, no. It's burned into my retinas.
And speaking about burn into your retinas, the fact that Antonio got so unbelievably bronze there yesterday, Wednesday at the Booker at Tone Bowl, got to see James Madison beat Western Kentucky. So far, we're 3 for 3 on bowl games. It's
That's
crazy.
right, man. And Antonio, he loves our colleague Tommy Calamari, Thomas Carinate. So he was super hyped for this. Um, I honestly I was surprised we were able to get Antonio out of Boca. Boca is definitely his vibe.
Yes. What's his nickname for Tommy Calamari? He can't say Calamari. It's Tommy.
Tommy Bulldog, bro.
We go to Thomas. He's like, "Is this an insult?" He's like, "This is the best he can do." He's like, "I'll take that."
Honestly, it's the highest compliment that he knows how to pay.
So yeah, Tice, he was happy to see James Madison win because we had monopoly money on it. But
Yeah.
Bob Chesney would have nothing to do with Antonio, and Tyson Helton was eating chicken fingers. He calls them chicken fingers.
Yeah, chicken fingers, and we can't underestimate. And we lost Antonio and Big Red for a little while there.
Oh no.
God only knows what they were doing, but yeah, at a certain point, Antonio was trying to convince me. I don't know if he said anything to you about this, but he was trying to convince me to cover himself in red fur as well and just do the rest of the bowl season like that. And I was like, Antonio, we can't do that. That's the Red Bulldogs thing, and we're just gonna let him do that.
I'm like, Antonio, your skin looking like George Hamilton chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
Chicken fingers, chicken. And he's like, okay, I got it. I understand that now. But then he came out with a Big Red with a pack of Big Red and the Jack Hawk 9000, and he said two words to me: prune candy.
Prune candy available at Walmart.
I think about he was with me in the Arizona State podcast at Walmart, and he was eating chicken wings.
he
Uh,
wasn't the only one either.
there was a lady and there was Antonio, and this is false start, but so we got a preview for because we obviously are not going to be able to get back to recap this until the day after Christmas. So we'll do this. So we got to today,
Mhm.
December 19th, we got the Ardell Carriers New Orleans Bowl with Georgia Southern versus Sam Houston in New Orleans. The Limp Bizkit song is "Eat You Alive," and the West Borland regalia. He's dressing up as a chicken finger.
Of course he is. I mean, he's got the bronze ready. He's ready to go. He's good and crispy. It's exactly what we want to see. I don't know if you've had a lot of talks with him, but he told me that he's excited to see Sam Houston play. And then he said, I've heard he's really good. I think he thinks Sam Houston is just one guy playing football in this game. And I don't really know how we're going to clarify that for him.
No, this is the founder of Texas.
Yeah,
One-
yeah. We can't,
Hey,
yeah. I don't
hanging
know.
out with hanging out with Stephen F. Austin way back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. The school is named after founders of states or just regular people. They really confuse our boy Antonio, and even more confusing is he already doesn't know the difference between a bearcat and a bulldog. Now you're throwing a K in there. He really has no idea what the hell's going on with Sam Houston.
He's going to be really, really, really confused because Chicken Fingers, his brother's coaching this game with Clay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is and on top of that, we're gonna like whether we want to or not, we're gonna end up on Bourbon Street. We're in New Orleans. This is not going to be the most fun stop on our trip for us because we're going to be doing damage control for about 6 to 8 hours.
So yes, he doesn't know Phil Longo hasn't arrived yet, so he's going to be hanging out with Gravy Clay Helton. Grave
Gravy Clay.
Gravy Clay. Um, yeah, he is a chicken finger hanging out with a guy called a Gravy on Bourbon Street.
That's right. That's a full meal right
That's a
there.
that's a full meal right there. I'm taking Georgia Southern comfortably.
I am as well. Yeah, this is Sam Houston. I don't know if they can field him. It might actually be one guy with all the guys that they have in the portal playing in this game.
The game might get canceled, but Antonio's still going to Bourbon Street with Gravy. So that's
That's
all he gets.
right.
Moving on to Friday's game, we've got the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl with Tulane versus Florida in Tampa. The Limp Bizkit song is 1999,
Spelled
and
not at all how you think that is, I promise you.
and because we're in Tampa, he's dressing up as a pirate.
100%. Yeah, it's the Gasparilla Bowl. What the hell else is he gonna do? He's Steve the Pirate, Antonio the Pirate. They're hanging out together. I gotta tell you this, and I haven't told Antonio. I think he's gonna be heartbroken. He is a sensitive fellow, despite all the things that we say about him. But I might just have to abandon Antonio and leave him to his own devices because I'm actually really excited for this game.
Yeah, me too. I think this is going to be John Summerall's like essentially his final game for his last season at Tulane before he leaves, and Billy Napier having a lot of success. We might be on different sides how we pick this game. This is actually a good one.
I'm really excited for this one. I will say that Antonio has expressed considering how we've talked about it for much of the season, he was surprised to learn that Billy Napier is still going to be at this game. He thought Billy Napier would be long gone by now, as I think we both did at certain points in the season as well. So he's excited to see his old pal Billy.
Yeah, he calls him Shaggy, which is
Yeah, it's Shaggy.
ironic. Even though the man's like it's just takes a three guard everywhere. That's
Top head to toe, three guard, baby.
so that was called the Joe Flacco haircut back in the day.
That three guard head to toe sounds like a ska band.
Da, 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 da. I bet their families hate them too. And then the reason they have ska bands is for people who aren't allowed to go back home for Christmas. They hang out with each other.
100%.
Oh my God. So yes, Antonio's gonna be dressing up as a pirate in Tampa, and he's gonna be thriving because like the people down there, it's like it's the same thing. Like the bars over, he can communicate a little bit better. He's gonna be just drinking rum like it's water.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that's honestly like even if we didn't want him to dress up as a West Portland pirate, he was going to do it anyway.
The most salacious pirate I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm taking Florida because they think
Oh
they have
yeah.
a quarterback. Yeah.
They have a quarterback. Tulane does not have their top two quarterbacks, so this is not going to end well for Tulane. And I also think like when you look at the motivation for this game, Tulane is going to be Tulane. Tulane is going to continue what they're doing under John Sumrall. This is another opportunity for Billy Napier to showcase DJ Lagway and be like, "Hey, if you're in the portal, don't you want to come play with this for the next 3 years? Like, don't you or 2 years, excuse me? But like, don't you want to come be a part of this? Like, this is an audition tape for Florida."
100%. So we've got those games done. We're going to take a little bit of break during the playoff games because again, Antonio is going to be in timeout. Also, I think the amount of liquor in his body from being in New Orleans and Tampa back-to-back days might kill most human beings, but he's a blow-up doll.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be close to Boca. He might just go get his bronze on again for a couple days.
Yes, and it's not going to get any better because on Monday we're going to the Myrtle Beach Bowl between Coastal Carolina and UTSA up there in Conway, South Carolina, in Greater Myrtle Beach. The song is Gold Cobra because I couldn't think of anything better.
I mean, it's exactly the type of thing you walk away from Myrtle Beach with.
Yes, and he's going to be dressing up as an amateur tattoo artist. You,
Hell
you are
yes, he
not,
is. Hell yes, he is.
yeah,
Oh my
he
God.
driving like Reese Bobby. Just you are not ready for this. This absolutely broke you.
Oh God, that got me. That was good. I need a second just to recover, get my wits about me. But yes, he is, and he also told me that he's very interested in pissing teal. He heard that's a thing that you do in Conway, South Carolina, and I told him I don't think that's a real thing, but he's determined. So we'll see how that works out for him.
Is he? I mean, I think this is the worst part. Tim Beck wants to hang out with him, and he wants to hang out with Jeff Traylor, and I don't think Jeff Traylor's interested.
No, Jeff Traylor, meet me. He's road running on past them, and I like this might be alternative if the amateur tattoo artist thing doesn't work out for him. Like he can dress up as Wile E. Coyote because he's trying to catch the Roadrunner head coach.
If I didn't think of amateur tattoo artist, the other thing he would have been wearing is just a Hooters outfit because I'm pretty sure Hooters was invented in Coastal Carolina.
I mean, if it wasn't, it should have been. So,
Their most distinguished alum is but
Grayson McCall.
Grayson McCall. I think Dustin Johnson played there too.
Dustin Johnson did play there.
And then the guy who created like wing sauces, like or something.
Hey man, that's an elite trio. That's the holy triumvirate.
Jason Mendoza's college.
That's right.
And because it's home, I'm going to take Coastal.
I am not taking Coastal in this game because Coastal has no players left. I think they have like 30 something players in the portal or like not playing in this game. So I'm going with UTSA. I think this game's going to be fast and loose, but yeah, the teal turf is not going to help a team that doesn't have any players.
Fast and loose, just the way you like it. I might change my mind here or whatever. I'll lie. I don't know. I don't care.
I'll lie. You're a cool liar, man. So
And speaking of cool liars, we got two of the coolest liars of all time going up against each other on Christmas Eve with Alex Golesh and Kinui Matalolo in the Hawaii Bowl. The game is called Dad Vibes.
dad vibes. Yeah, unfortunate that we have to go here since I can't say Ken's last name ever to save my life.
And you basically told Antonio what he's wearing. He's just getting laid. He's wearing a lay. You basically told me that.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
like
it's what you got to do. Hawaii vibes. He was trying to he was trying to convince me to dress as Hawaii 5 like a character from that show, and I told him you're not ready for that. Like, yeah, you can't. He's not ready for that. You're just wearing the lei and the speedo because that also fits Hawaii.
Yes. And I gotta be really honest with you. I'm going with the Coyote Master, Kenui Matalolo with this one with the Coyotes who play Radiohead.
A hundred
Do, do, do,
percent,
do,
dude.
do, do.
It's all about the Coyotes. You know, Coyotes are running rampant through Hawaii, as I've long said.
Are they native here? Well, they're here now.
Yeah, like much like the ball pythons of Florida, they're here now.
And I gotta be honest with you, Alex Kalesh is gonna have like a hella sunburn
Oh my
because
God, it's gonna be awful.
born in the USSR, he's gonna go back to the USSR because he's gonna be redder than a communist country.
He's gonna end up looking like a golfer after a PGA Tour event when he takes off his hat and just has like the sunburn like rim around his head.
Hawaii is part of the Rim of Islands, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Antonio is going to be like, oh, let's go. Alex Kalesh call him pineapple upside down cake.
Pineapple. Yeah, 100%.
Oh man, Antonio's picking the best bowls here, and we're having a hell of a time here. This was episode 136 of Fall Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter at the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB Fall Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. My God, Charlie Brown added me down there. Yeah, please give us a
Merry
five-star review.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, God, I can't believe we're going to do the Arts in the Cloud of Punt, and then we're going to have our Christmas episode. Yes, we're going to be doing some Noel stock out our Chinese food. We're going to be doing some coal, yak.
Mhm.
We're going to be doing Bah Humbug. The little lights aren't twinkling, Clark. And then, so you say you want a New Year's resolution. Well, yeah, it's going to be really stupid. So we're basically to make fun of about 36 different things over the course of about an hour and a half on Monday. It's going to be dumb.
Look, Merry Christmas to us, honestly.
Watching the Santa Claus yesterday. Santa Claus 2. Just the replacement Santa. It's just
It's
unbelievable.
it's so good. I have to make the list and I have to check it twice.
It's like if Antonio played Santa Claus.
It really is.
Oh my God. The best time to wear a striped sweater is all the time. Dr. Miller. And this is false start.